Hi, and welcome back to the White Noise podcast with Skye and Lyanna. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We are pretty much on take 3 because we're both pretty drunk in celebration of St. Patrick's Day because of the Irish.
Yeah, because Ireland. That's pretty much the only reason. This episode has been a long time coming, simply because me and Lyanna have been on this Zoom call for about 5 hours. And it's taken us till now to get to this. But we're going to be talking about Irish accents in film and television, because we all know they are notoriously either really good or so goddamn awful. They're still the best to listen to.
I mean, we'd like to pretend that this is going to have some facade of being about like Irish filmmakers, Irish actors or actresses. No, it's going to be about the accents.
When I said to people we were doing a St. Patrick's Day episode, they were like, oh, that's so cool. Are you going to be talking about the history of St. Patrick's Day? I was like, no, we're just going to be getting drunk. So this isn't going to be historical or cultural. This is just going to be a drunken conversation between two people.
I mean, it's kind of pathetic as well, because it's not even like we had whiskey. It was sours on yours end. Yours end?
On mine's end.
Mine's end. It was sours on your end and a mix on mine of peach schnapps and gin and Southern Comfort and rum.
Probably the most un-Irish drinks you can drink.
Oh,
I was
it's
thinking
fantastic.
about getting like Baileys or Guinness, but I just can't do it.
Oh, that's genius though.
I may be half Irish, but I can't do it. I just can't do it.
You're disappointing your fam.
I know. The only thing I inherited from my mom was possibly her tolerance, but not tonight.
Maybe for sours.
Yeah, to be fair, I have drank. I've drank like half the bowl
Fucking
from
hell.
an egg cup because I don't have any shot glasses.
Did it help you survive Daniel Day-Lewis's accent?
So I think we wanted to start it with like the good ones, because there are there's no like rhyme or reason to this episode. It's just pure rambling. I mean, obviously because it's St. Patrick's Day, we wanted to talk about something Irish, and we just thought the Irish accent was the best way to get into it, because there are so many examples of good and bad, but also just the Western world's obsession with the accent itself. Like, I don't know if you remember, but back home in Newquay, where me and Lyanna spent a lot of our youth, there was this place called Bertie O'Flanagan's, which is like, they just thought if they added O'Flanagan to the end of something, oh yeah, that was Irish. I just remember seeing it. I also remember my mom always commenting on it because she just found it so funny. And it seems to be the case for a lot of films, actors thinking that if they add a few arses and shites and fecks into there, it makes it Irish.
There's even that episode of Community, like Troy's birthday party, Flanagan's Hole. That's not even got an O.
Flanagan. Yeah, I was going to say O and Flanagan seem to be the two main things that Irish things up. Like, I don't know what the characters' names were in the films, but we spoke about that, like, noughties rom-coms are the worst offenders for this.
I think they got tired of Scottish, maybe?
Yeah.
Irish was just next down the list, let's be real.
Every generation is obsessed with some kind of British accent, and Irish just seems to be the thing for the noise.
Oh, that's so true. English was the 90s, like Notting Hill.
Yep.
You
went into the noughties and you got classic gold like Matthew Good in Leap Year and Gerard Butler in P.S. I Love You. And I don't know which is worse.
I mean, you say each decade has its obsession with each, but I don't think there's ever been an obsession with Welsh.
Which I don't really understand, because I really like the Welsh accent.
I mean, you went to uni in Cardiff, Wales. I say Cardiff, Wales for our international listeners.
Yeah, and I was severely disappointed with the Welsh accents that I came across. Nobody was Welsh there.
Yeah, it's like city accent, isn't it? It's not valleys. Yeah.
It's true.
I know what you mean, like becoming obsessed with like certain accents. Of course they're gonna latch onto Irish. Like, it's calming, it's chill, it's happy, it's welcoming, and
that's what you think. You didn't grow up with an Irish mother.
I met her.
Yeah, and she's lovely when you meet her sometimes.
A babe.
I'm joking. My mother's lovely. But the thing is, though, do you know what's so funny? That I grew up and people would be like, oh, your mom's accent's so lovely. And I'd be like, oh, cool. As a child, not really understanding, because she just sounded like my mum. And it was only as I got older and like when she gets a little angry, or if she's on the telephone, her accent does really come out. Or if we're around other members of our family on her side, her accent comes out. But for so many years, she just sounded like my mum. So when I think I watched stuff when I was younger that had bad Irish accents, I was very forgiving because I was like, oh, maybe it's accurate. It is not.
The thing is, like, I get you. The Irish accent can either sound like incredibly calm and nice and chill, or it can sound fucking terrifying.
I mean, I guess it's the same with any accent. Like, I think especially if you grow up with it, obviously if you've heard someone be angry in that accent, it can terrify you. You make you shake in your boots.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, but Matthew Good and Gerard Butler did not make me shake in my boots or any, like, I mean, I know we said we were going to start with the good ones, but, you know, you can't talk about the good without the bad.
True.
And, like, one of the worst offenders, apart from P.S. I Love You, is Matthew Good in Leap Year.
It makes me so sad because Matthew Good is a very good actor. And
I
he
don't
just
know if
phoned
I've
it
seen
in.
him in anything else.
Watchmen, The Crown, all that jazz. He phoned it
Oh,
in. Really phoned it in.
I didn't realise that's who it was.
For our Pot Chan Wook stands out there, he is in Stoker.
Oh, yeah, I've not seen that.
Oh, a banger.
It's like he just invented his own way to say cows.
Go
Like,
on, do an example.
I've already said I'm not doing any impressions. My mom already calls me a plastic paddy. I don't need more reasons for her to disown. It's my mother's pet name for me. But I just don't. I mean, films like Leap Year, for example, or I mean, even P.S. I Love You. I don't understand why they had to be Irish anyway. But if they did, why didn't you just hire Irish actors? Why?
I think they wanted it to be Irish because it almost seems more exciting than English for American audiences, because let's be real, these were made for American audiences, but they were for transatlantic appeal. Like, they want them to appeal to English people as well. So they hire English actors to do Irish accents in the case of Matthew Good, you know?
It was just like there are some examples of like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in Far and Away and Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz in Gangs of New York that are like, they are bad, do not get me wrong, but I feel like they tried harder. Like, I think they sound Irish. Whereas in P.S. I Love You and Leap Year, it's just like they were like, you know what, I'm gonna talk with a weird voice and people will just associate it with the fact that I'm Irish because either we're in Dublin or, you know, we'll throw in a few kiss my arses and apparently that makes you Irish.
I mean, if you say arse, not ass, that's like an instant passport into Ireland and Scotland. I mean, everyone knows that, Skye.
You say feck, shite, that's it, you're in. People seem to think, Americans seem to think, if you throw in a few colloquialisms and like slang terms, people will be like, okay, they know around about the region, so they'll just assume for the rest of this film that I sound Irish. I mean, like, one of the biggest examples that I think everyone thinks of when they think of bad Irish accent in film is Brad Pitt in Snatch. I am here to disagree with that because, like I said, there are many different regions in Ireland where people speak very differently. Brad Pitt was going for more of a traveler's accent. I have people in my family who do speak like this. I cannot understand a word they're saying because every word blends together, and it's Brad Pitt's version of this accent is so funny because it's like the longer you listen to it, the worse it sounds, but at the same time, it's not completely inaccurate.
See, this is what I love about Snatch, is it's like, it's not going for exact accuracy.
It's not.
But it's also not quite going for Martin Scorsese Irish gang. Like,
but then
I think it hits that nail that it's trying to hit.
I completely agree, because then also if you watch The Devil's Own, which Brad Pitt also has an Irish accent, it was almost kind of like by the time he got to Snatch, he realised he can't do a serious Irish accent. So he just went for what he did. He just went for complete incoherency. And it was hilarious and it worked really well.
We discussed before, like Normal People was released recently. Skye has yet to watch it, but that became a sensation in and of its own right. But of course, like, the actors became their own sensation. One actor is Irish, of course, one isn't. I am amazed in all honesty, that Daisy Edgar-Jones is not Irish. She does the most incredible Irish accent, like you literally wouldn't even realise. Which to me shows that all these guys doing rom-coms in the noughts didn't care.
I only watched the trailer, but yeah, it sounded, I mean, it seems to be the biggest things that people go for is they're either going to have a really nasally northern Irish sounding accent or a really high pitched leprechaun-y sounding accent. And it's kind of like, yeah, okay, there are people who sound like that, but it's not the generic accent. And there are so many parts of Ireland that like you can drive for like 15 minutes and the accent will change, like anywhere, to be honest. But especially American cinema doesn't seem to understand that.
I think that's the beauty of it being mass released in America, is that like they are such a huge country. They have to go between states to kind of get different accents. They don't realize that like in England you can go, like you say, fucking 15 minutes. I just mean England, obviously, like the whole of the UK and Ireland and Wales and Scotland. Go 15 minutes and you are in an entirely different world and people can distinguish them. Insane.
Like people compare my mom's accent to the Northern Irish accent and she gets offended because she's from Dublin. So yeah, I mean, you have like, there are some films like Gangs of New York and Far and Away where you have actors, I want to say they try. I feel like they think they sound Irish.
Yeah.
So like, I believe that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman thought they sounded Irish. I think they probably sounded more Irish than Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz did. Like, so there are some examples that like if I wasn't told that's what they were doing, I was like, what?
Do Americans question it?
No.
Exactly.
I can answer that question. No. I wondered if it was just when Americans try to do the accent, because I do appreciate that obviously having an American accent is very far away from a British accent. So I thought it would obviously be harder, because you've got examples like James McAvoy in Inside I'm Dancing, who is a Scottish actor who does a very convincing Irish accent. But I wondered if that was because you have a lot of crossovers between the accents, the colloquialism and the slang. And he sounded fine. I didn't think he was going for like a stereotypical like really high leprechaun-y voice or a really monotone Northern Irish voice, which seemed to be the two main ones that people go for. And I don't know if people realize, but just like anywhere else, there are many different parts of Ireland. There are many different accents. And I thought at first it was because he is Scottish. And I know that the two accents have like crossovers in like slang and colloquialism. But then just on the other side, there is Gerard Butler, who's also Scottish and is fucking awful in P.S. I Love You. So that can't be the reason why. It must just be pure acting skill. No matter how many arses he throws in there, it does not translate into Irish.
A lot of people say that Spanish and Portuguese are so similar that it's almost harder to differentiate between the languages, especially for the native speakers. Like it can be harder to learn that language and differentiate between them. I think that might become the case for like Irish speakers doing Scottish and Scottish doing Irish, that like it's so similar they accidentally slip into their native one and don't even realize.
I'm really sorry, my microphone just fell over. So Brad Pitt did an Irish accent in The Devil's Own. Wasn't great. It was just a bad accent. He just sounded like himself. Every so often his voice would like go a bit higher to sound like a question. People always seem to think that Irish people are like asking permission for something, which is why I think a lot of the time they get misconstrued to be overly polite and like, I don't know, the Canadians of the UK.
That is such a good way to describe it.
But like that is, again, from growing up, I don't want to make it seem like my mum was an angry person. She wasn't. But obviously I was a little shy as a kid. So that's not the case. Like obviously if you get angry, you get angry. It doesn't matter how soft and lovely your voice is. But then same actor, Brad Pitt in Snatch, probably the one everybody thinks of when they think of an Irish accent. It's almost like he took what he realized he did wrong in The Devil's Own and thought, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna fucking do this. And the more you listen to his accent in Snatch, it's like you go from being like, oh my god, this is so bad, to actually it's not completely inaccurate of that dialect, because I have family members who speak similarly and I can't understand a word that they're saying.
See, I think every human being goes through a metamorphosis. You know,
Mhm.
we start out as his accent shit and we finally evolve to, Brad Pitt's accent in Snatch is one of the best performances of all time. He's not going for strict Irish, but he eats. Like, dude ate. Where was the
It's
Oscar?
like, if you compare it to like one of my favorite episodes of Derry Girls, which is the one where they all go and try and see Take That, and they bump into the
Oh,
travelers, and they get so terrified because obviously travelers have a bad reputation. And yeah, the way that those guys talk, when you compare it to the way Brad Pitt talks in Snatch, it's not that different. Thinking though of some characters, oh my god, some characters and shows that base a lot of their humor around either the Irish accent or being in Ireland. So Robert Sheehan in Derry Girls, in Misfits. What's his character's name in Misfits? I've already forgotten.
Nathan.
Nathan. So Nathan's character is a funny character anyway, but let's be honest, it leans a lot into the actor's accent.
Completely agree.
And Derry Girls is very similar, that like, again, the writing is funny, but it leans a lot into, Irish culture and the language. And I can't deny there is something inherently charming about it. I understand why people find it an endearing accent in situations like this, because it is.
From what, 5 minutes into the first episode of Derry Girls, like you're introduced to the warmth of the way they talk to each other. I think it's
Yeah.
such a good example of how Irish accents can seem like super comforting and super funny.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Snatch, even though we all rip on it, there's a warmth to it because he's always talking about his mum.
Yeah. The funniest thing about it as well is that whether they're good or bad, you can always hear the actor's own voice coming through with it.
Yes.
And I think that's why sometimes when you have an actor who doesn't obviously inherently have an Irish accent, it can be endearing regardless, because it's like, oh, they tried.
Oh, poor baby.
I just think it's so funny because Brad Pitt's Jesus. Brad Pitt's accent in that film is notorious for being bad. But when I was like just doing some research for this episode, I can't remember, I think it was like Irish Central, this website I went on, and it was like top whatever number accents, Irish accents in film. And it had Kate Blanchett, then it had Brad Pitt, and then the third one was, that's it. They're the only two good accents that have ever existed. And I was like, well, there you go. I think it's been said that Brad Pitt's accent in Snatch is actually one of the good ones,
Right.
no matter how much it's debated.
I mean, if we're going to update it, I am, if it's not already clear, a member of the Daisy Edgar Jones army. I mean, I'm not Irish, so I cannot give a definitive answer on if she gives a good Irish accent, but I'm going to pretend she does.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not like, Lyanna like referred to me as the spokesperson for this episode. I'm not, because I was not born in Ireland. I was not raised in Ireland. I have not spent an extensive time in Ireland. It's very expensive to go back there on the ferry. My understanding and connection to Ireland comes from my mom, who is purebred Irish. So even when I hear accents, it's like, obviously I can pick out the super, super bad ones, but every so often I'll hear an accent and think, oh, that's not too bad. And my mom would just be like, are you fucking kidding me? Just kind of like, okay, I'm sorry.
Your mum's accent is amazing, though. Like, this is the thing. Like, if I'm entranced by your mum's accent, how do Americans feel? Like, can we blame them?
I'm pretty sure when my mum went to visit my uncle in America many, many years ago, people kept saying to her like how entrancing her accent was.
I'm not even kidding. I'm surprised like she didn't have her rom-com moments. I don't even mean that in a silly way. Like, genuinely, like Americans, they love it.
You say that, but so my mum moved from Ireland to Birmingham when she was in her teens, and she was severely bullied for her accent.
Really?
Like, severely, to a point where she tried to suppress it because people would like make fun of her so much for it. So it's not always been the most sought after thing.
It's crazy to see the turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's interesting to see that, like, accents which get bullied become popular. For example, like, say, northern accents. I would say they were like mocked in the South. Still are a little bit, but they're getting more popular. So, like, Irish, it's no surprise it got popular in rom-coms. Like you say, it was do its time. Give it another 10, 20 years, it will be do it again.
I mean, I think we're like transitioning into an era now where like I don't really care about accents anymore.
Yeah,
As
true.
in like to make fun of in a nasty way. Like obviously you still get people, poking a little fun, or like, because my dad's from Birmingham. So he'll poke fun at my mom's accent every so often, but it's only done good naturedly.
I mean, at this point in time, it's like as long as you can communicate with someone, hopefully that's the main thing that matters. I don't know if that sounds naive, but
Yeah.
you'd like to think.
My girlfriend's French, and I like to make fun of her when she says stuff wrong. It's mainly because of an inferiority complex that she is multilingual and I can barely speak English. So making fun of her makes me feel better. But it's like, it's not done in a horrible way. It's like, when she says stuff in a certain way, it's the way that she says it. The same way that my mom said stuff growing up. It was like, oh, it's just the way my mom said it, even though there is a whole culture of people that say stuff the same way. I have that connection to it.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the closest I have is the Cornish accent, and like, I doubt anyone around the globe knows what a Cornish accent is.
And yet, I like growing up, I actually have found the Cornish accent very endearing.
Really?
I think any kind of thick accent is endearing because I don't know, I just like the way people say stuff.
I think that speaks to like the popularity of the Irish accent. It's so thick, and I know like Americans mistake it for Scottish a lot, but it is unmistakable. Let's be real. Like, of course, it's so popular in like rom-coms and such because it gives like I hate it. It gives off that like vibe in these rom-coms of like a free spirit and like a totally happy guy, which is such bullshit. Let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, when me and Lyanna were just watching a few clips for this episode, and she showed me the normal people one, and again, this is subjective, but she was saying to me how hot the guy is in that.
Paul
I
Mescal,
know
yeah.
for a fact. Yeah, I know for a fact it's because of his accent. Because
Oh yeah, 100%.
it adds that charm.
I mean,
suppose is what
if
people
I
think.
saw him at Big Tesco, I would be like, okay, maybe in real life it'd be a different situation.
But
I
then, to
would
be
do
fair,
a double
if
take,
he
but I might do a triple take. I mean, like, we're wrapping up soon, and like one thing I said I wanted to butt in with is Saoirse Ronan because she is my queen, and I know that sounds typical. Sounds like I'm an A24 whore. Don't care. That's me. I love her. She is so acclaimed for a reason, and she's amazing in Brooklyn, which I realised Skye pointed out is probably the only film she uses her native accent in. And she eats.
Lyanna's saying that everybody is well fed within this podcast. I've never seen Brooklyn, and I was saying that I don't think I've actually ever seen a film where Saoirse Ronan uses her own accent,
which is a shame because she's such a beautiful voice.
She does
She
have a really
really
pretty voice.
does. And like in Brooklyn, maybe she adjusts it for the time period because it's based in 1950s New York. But at the end of the day, it's really nice to hear someone who is actually Irish use their accent.
I think as well, like some people, you can't tell. They're generally just so good that you can't tell. But most of the time, you can tell when someone is a native speaker of wherever they're representing because of how genuine they come across. And
That's
how
true.
in their element they seem, because obviously I would have to assume, because I've never been an actor myself, that it takes a lot out of you to have to think, okay, I need to say this line, but I need to remember how to say it in a way I don't normally speak. So for somebody to be able to do that without thinking, I think it does come across.
I think there's like a natural flow to it.
Yeah. I mean, another, currently big actor who I would probably say became famous for having a distinctive Irish accent is Robert Sheehan, because in Misfits, to be fair, if his character, I guess, had been Scottish or Welsh, just because of the British humour, it probably could have worked. But there was something about his natural accent and the fact that he was so in his element. And also I have heard him do an American accent, as I'm sure most people have. It's not great, because his voice is just so iconic. And I mean, even moving away from film and television, you know, any people who from the UK who who listen to this, but have watched Eurovision, everybody knows that Graham Norton does the voiceover for that.
Yes.
Another very famous Irishman who just has that distinctive voice that you just can't get away from.
I agree. They call it the brogue, don't they?
Yeah.
It's very like, I think I get what you're getting at. Like, it's so distinctive. I think that's why people are drawn to it, because it's so distinctive.
Yeah. I think there's just something about it that when it's done really badly, unless you are Brad Pitt in Snatch, it's awful.
Yeah, but doesn't that speak to the power of Brad Pitt? Everyone calls it a bad accent, but why the fuck are they still talking about it?
Because it's like, if you know you're going to do something badly, do it the best badly.
Hell yeah.
And that's what he did. And that's what I want everyone to take away from this episode, that you may have thought he was bad in that film. Think again.
I mean, like, we're wrapping up here, but it's like almost at my final sign-off point. I want to add that Robert Sheehan in Misfits was a revelation to all the American or just non-British listeners. You should watch Misfits solely for Robert Sheehan's performance, and I don't say that lightly, because he's fucking amazing. That fisherman's friend scene is probably the best thing in the show.
It's definitely his top-notch role. And I mean, I've seen him in other stuff. It's not like he's a bad actor, but it's just, he was so in his element in that show.
I've seen questions about why he wasn't in Game of Thrones, because his look suits Game of Thrones. And I tell you what, I see it.
Do you know why I reckon he wasn't in it?
Too iconic?
No, because he turned it down for Umbrella Academy.
Oh, don't even.
That's a discussion for another day.
That is. I mean, we've talked about a lot of Irish accents here.
Yeah.
I feel like we may have missed a lot, but there's more than we could possibly touch on.
I mean, yeah, we can't cover everything in a mini-sode, so which let us know which ones you like or don't like.
Yes,
you probably disagree or mainly disagree with everyone that we've said.
Have a go at us on like Twitter or Instagram or in the YouTube comments, because I'll be real, we're drunk in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, so we probably have missed one. Let us know.
only one though.
Yeah, don't attack us. We're drunk. It's fine.
I feel like this episode was meant to be us ragging on bad Irish accents, but instead we've just been ragging on Americans.
I mean, like, at any opportunity, let's be real. Any last comments, Skye?
Watch Snatch.
I agree. Watch Snatch, because that is a severely underrated film.
Get drunk and watch Snatch and have a good St. Patrick's Day.
Hell yeah. Happy St. Paddy's Day, everyone.